Hello and welcome to Cholesterol Basics. In this program, we're going to cover the basics of the standard blood test for cholesterol. We'll explain how to read this blood test and explain exactly what are LDL and HDL. We'll talk about why they're important, and then we'll go over some examples of how to interpret your own numbers. Once we've covered these basics, you'll be better able to understand the individual cholesterol mastery programs for HDL and LDL. So let's start with the basic cholesterol blood test. This is called a lipid panel or a cholesterol panel. On this panel, you see three important metrics: your HDL, your triglycerides, and your LDL cholesterol. Some more advanced panels will give you additional information about LDL and HDL, but these do not change our mastery programs or our recommendations. Let's start with your HDL cholesterol. This is your good cholesterol. HDL keeps your arteries clean, so more is better. LDL is your bad cholesterol. LDL carries cholesterol into your arteries, so we want this to be as low as possible. Some lab tests for cholesterol will include other, more specialized ways of looking at bad cholesterol, including measurements of particle size and number, and even measurements of other proteins like apolipoprotein B that are found in the LDL molecule. We won't dwell on these, but do know that they exist in case they turn up in a lab test. Last, we have our triglycerides. Triglycerides are bad and they show up on a cholesterol blood test, but they aren't cholesterol. Since they don't have the same cholesterol carrying effect as LDL and HDL, we'll cover these separately in their own mastery program. Now, what makes LDL and HDL special is that they are carriers for cholesterol. Although we often refer to them as cholesterol, HDL and LDL aren't really cholesterol at all. Instead, they're more like vehicles that cholesterol travels in. The type of cholesterol carrier, HDL or LDL, tells you which direction in your body the cholesterol is heading. And what we really care about is whether the cholesterol is heading toward your arteries, where it can cause a blockage, or away from your arteries to be excreted or disposed of. LDL is your bad cholesterol. LDL is like a little earth mover pushing cholesterol, represented here by these little yellow balls, into your arteries where it doesn't belong. In this picture, you see a normal artery with a nice clean artery wall on the left, and then we have this little mountain of cholesterol that's building up and blocking the blood flow through the artery. HDL is doing exactly the opposite job of LDL. While LDL is busy pushing cholesterol into your arteries, HDL is loading up with cholesterol from the artery wall and carrying it away to be excreted through the liver. So HDL is working for you to keep your arteries nice and clean. Each and every day you've got this dynamic of LDL molecules in your body pushing cholesterol into the arteries where it has the potential to build up and cause a problem. And then you have your HDL molecules, which are loading up with cholesterol, pulling it out of the artery wall and heading up towards the liver for excretion. And this pathway, this flow, is occurring all the time, and it's a healthy dynamic of HDL and LDL working together. So why do we care? Why are HDL and LDL so important? Well, by this point it should be fairly obvious. We don't want cholesterol getting in the way of blood getting to all our important organs. And if we take a closer look at this artery wall here, we've got all these nice little red blood cells that are floating through the artery, carrying oxygen throughout our body. And on the left, where the artery is clean, there's a lot more flow happening within the artery, compared to the right, where the cholesterol is starting to accumulate. There, the cholesterol is narrowing the artery and it's making it difficult for blood to flow through. And where exactly is all this blood heading? Well, it's going to our major organs. We've got our heart, our brain, our kidneys, our eyes, and our peripheral muscles, just to name a few. All of these important organs need blood, and as our arteries get blocked up, the organs become starved for blood and don't get the oxygen and nutrients they need to stay healthy. This can lead to bad things happening, like heart attacks and stroke, kidney damage, blindness, and muscle cramps and pains. This is why we want to keep all of our organs healthy, and we want to keep those arteries nice and clean. Therefore, good and bad cholesterol is all about keeping arteries clean and keeping our organs healthy by enhancing blood flow. LDL is our bad cholesterol, and HDL is the good cholesterol. And if we think about HDL and LDL in this framework, it should be clear to all of us what healthy levels of HDL and LDL should look like. We want to have more HDL and less LDL. Ideally, we'd like to see those numbers be equal. You're going to want your numbers of dump trucks and earth movers to be roughly the same. So let's apply this logic to our cholesterol panel and see what a super awesome cholesterol panel might look like. The high end of the normal range for HDL, which is your good cholesterol, is 60. So anything over 60 is fantastic. Now, if we look at LDL, interestingly, the best possible ranges are generally considered to be those less than 70. So a super awesome cholesterol panel has your LDL and HDL right in the same excellent ranges. Our HDL is above 60, in this case 65, and our LDL is below 70, in this case 65 as well. This gives us a nice healthy ratio of 1:1 HDL to LDL. Our dump trucks and earth movers are roughly the same, and this is considered to be the best possible cholesterol panel. Studies show that if your levels are in this range, you're actually getting regression of cholesterol plaque. This means that even if you've already built up cholesterol in your arteries from years ago, keeping your cholesterol in this range can allow your body to actually start to resorb this plaque. This is as good as it gets. Now let's take a look at what a slightly less awesome, but still really good cholesterol panel might look like. Here the LDL is less than 100, but higher than 70. This is generally considered to be an optimal range for most people. Your HDL target hasn't changed, it stays right above 60. So here, our ratio of LDL to HDL is 1.5 to 1. It's almost 1:1, but not quite. So we've got a little bit more LDL than HDL, and in this case you wouldn't expect to actually reverse any existing cholesterol plaque, but on the bright side you can be sure that no further cholesterol is accumulating in your arteries. If your cholesterol is in this range or in the super awesome range, you're doing great and you just need to stay right where you are. Now let's look at the range where your HDL and LDL ratio needs work. Your HDL has now dropped into what would be considered a borderline range between 40 and 60, which is not so good. And at the same time, your LDL has crept up above 100. When this happens, your ratio changes pretty dramatically. We now have 3 times as much LDL as HDL. This means we have 3 times as many earth movers as we have dump trucks. Now the arteries are starting to collect cholesterol because there's no way these dump trucks can keep up with all those earth movers. Your arteries are going to start getting clogged, and unless something changes, the end result will be blocked arteries and a high risk of heart attack or stroke. This process takes many years, but it's easy to stop with our mastery programs. Now let's look at a really bad cholesterol panel. The HDL has dropped into a danger zone. Anything less than 40 is a very high risk range. At the same time, the LDL has climbed above 140, which is again a high risk range. When this happens, the ratio has increased pretty dramatically, such that we now see 5 LDL earth movers to every HDL dump truck. There's absolutely no way that the HDL is keeping up here, and consequently the cholesterol is building up at a rapid pace. When your cholesterol panel looks like this, it's time to jump on your mastery programs in a big way because time is not on your side. So let's summarize this knowledge and start to apply it to mastering our LDL and HDL numbers. HDL and LDL, good and bad cholesterol, is all about keeping your arteries clean and your organs healthy, limiting the risk of heart attack, stroke, muscle damage, eye damage, kidney damage, and damage to peripheral organs. The goal of cholesterol mastery is to keep our LDL, our bad cholesterol, as low as possible, ideally lower than 70. We're also going to work on getting our good cholesterol, the HDL, up above 60. And as long as our HDL and LDL are roughly the same, or we have only slightly more LDL than HDL, we're going to be in great shape. And the good news is that no matter where your numbers are today, the RX5 Mastery programs will give you everything you need to optimize your numbers. So let's get started with HDL and LDL Mastery. Good luck!